Welcome to the ISKCON Portland Srimad Bhagavatam class. Let me share my screen and we can get started. Is the screen visible?
Yes, Prabhuji.
All right.
Yes, Prabhu.
Let's start with Mangalacharana. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Soyam Rupah Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutah Padkamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenbandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. We can recite the prayers from the invocation verses from Srimad Bhagavatam. Our obeisances to Sri Shukadeva Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj and Sri Shukadeva Goswami. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shlokir Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Also recite the Mangalacharana for Srimad Bhagavatam. Janmadyasya yatonvayaditarataschartheshvabhigyah swarat tene brahma hridayadikavaye muhyanti yatsuraya tejo varivratam yatha vinimayo yatra trisargo mrisha dhamna svena sada nirastakuhakam satyam param dhimahi. Hare Krishna. All right. So welcome everyone. Today is the first day of Kartik month of this year, So it's a very auspicious occasion, and I'm very fortunate to get the opportunity to read Srimad Bhagavatam, share Srimad Bhagavatam, and hear Srimad Bhagavatam. So, as I understand, we completed the 12th chapter, birth or appearance of Parikshit Maharaj, last week. So this week we will start with 13th chapter. So let me share my screen. Okay. And chapter 13, very wonderful chapter. Dhritarashtra quits home. So let us go through the verse, the translation, purport, and then we can, discuss. So Sri Suta Goswami continues the narration of the events to the Shaunakadi rishis, who were very curious to know what transpired and how did their great king Parikshit Maharaj end up leaving his body unexpectedly. So these are the events that are leading up to that. So till now, the birth of Parikshit Maharaj was described, and now the sort of the events leading up to his disappearance are going to be described, starting with the disappearance of Dhritarashtra. I will explain the significance of that a little bit later. Shri Suta Uvacha Vidurastirthayatrayam Maitreyādatmano gatim Gyatva Gadhastinapuram Taya Vapta Vivitsitaha. Shri Suta Uvacha Vidurastirthayatrayam Maitreyādatmano gatim Gyatva Gadhastinapuram Taya Vapta Vivitsitaha. Once more. Shri Suta Uvacha Vidurastirthayatrayam Maitreyādatmano gatim Gyatva Gadhastinapuram Taya Vapta Vivitsitaha. Would anybody like to recite the verse?
Shri Suta Vacha Vidurastirtha Yatrayam Maitreyādatmano gatim Yatva Gadhastinapuram Taya Vapta Vivitsitaha. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. We can't hear you, Narottam Vilas Prabhu. Still no audio. I don't know. Jai Sachinanand Prabhuji, can you hear him?
Can you hear me now, Prabhu?
Yeah,
Yes.
now we can hear.
Let me change the mic, Prabhu. Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. Suta Uvacha Vidurastirtha Yatrayam Maitreyādatmano gatim Gyatva Gadhastinapuram Taya Vapta Vivastitaha.
You. Valentai Prabhu, would you like to? Is there anybody else other than four of us?
It's okay, Prabhuji. I don't need to. Just want to hear.
Okay, sure. All right. So once again, Shri Suta Uvacha Vidurastirthayatrayam Maitreyādatmano gatim Gyatva Hastinapuram taya vapta vividsitaha. Synonyms. Suta Uvacha. Shri Sut Goswami said, Viduraha, Vidur, Tirtha Yatrayam, while traveling to different places of pilgrimage. Maitreyad, from the great sage Maitreya. Atmanah, of the self. Gatim, destination. Gyatva, by knowing it. Agat, went back. Hastinapuram, the city of Hastinapur. Taya, by that knowledge. Avapta, sufficiently a gainer. Vividsitaha, being well versed in everything knowable. So, the way verse connects line by line is that Viduras Tirtha Yatrayam. So, we will take these words. So, Viduras Tirtha Yatrayam. So, we know that Vidurji went to Tirth Yatra before the Mahabharat war because he was insulted, and when he tried to guide or advise Dhritarashtra to not listen to his son Duryodhan, because that will result in a huge war between the brothers and will bring destruction to the whole family. So Vidurji was trying to look after for the welfare of Dhritarashtra and the whole dynasty, but his foolish son Duryodhan insulted Vidurji very badly and asked him to get out of the kingdom. And Vidurji very happily left. Not happily, he was sad for his elder brother, but he left. So, and he went to pilgrimage. So that is the first line, Viduras Tirtha Yatrayam. Maitreyad Atmano Gatim. There he met Maitreya Muni, and from there he understood from Maitreya Muni all the knowledge for Atmano Gatim, for the final destination of the Atma or the self or the soul, which is at the feet of Lord Shri Hari. So he learned all the knowledge of Krishna Bhakti. Maitreyad Atmano Gatim. Gyatva Gad Hastinapuram. Gyatva Gad. So Gyatva means after bringing all that knowledge or gaining all that knowledge. So we are here. Gyatva Gad Hastinapuram. After assimilating, internalizing all that knowledge, Agat Hastinapuram, he came back. Agat matlab aa gaye wapas. To kahan aa gaye? Hastinapur aa gaye. So Hastinapuram to the, by this time the Mahabharat war is over. The Kauravas are all killed, and Yudhishthir Maharaj is king, and Dhritarashtra is in the palace being taken care of because he's an old blind man. Taya, Taya Vapta Vividsitaha. And then by that knowledge, he became well versed in that knowledge, and from that knowledge he knew everything else as well. Vividsitaha means he got the complete knowledge in everything knowable. So he became well versed in everything knowable. So he came back with the whole wisdom of knowledge for all the possible knowledge that there is to know. So that's sort of the line by line understanding. Viduras Tirtha Yatrayam Maitreyad Atmano Gatim Gyatva Gad Hastinapuram Taya Vapta Vividsitaha. So the translation by Srila Prabhupada is, Sri Suta Goswami said, while traveling on a pilgrimage, Vidura received knowledge of the destination of the self from the great sage Maitreya, and then returned to Hastinapur, Agat Hastinapuram. he became as well versed in the subject as he desired. So he became fully well versed in the subject. Taya vapta vivitsitaha. So basically, this is the starting of the chapter number 13. We are on 13.1, first canto, chapter 13, first verse. And the title of this chapter is Dhritarashtra Quits Home. Why don't we see that title here? Oh, this is just the first text. So if we go back to chapter 13, you will see that the title is Dhritarashtra Quits Home. So that's the title of the chapter. It's a very long chapter. I think it has 60 plus verses. Exactly 60 verses. So a very long chapter. And it starts with the return of Vidurji to Hastinapur to talk to his elder brother Dhritarashtra. So that's the starting of this chapter. And it is just quickly describing the fact that Vidurji had gone on pilgrimage and there had a great conversation with Maitreya Muni. That whole conversation, or how that came to happen, is described in Canto 3. So Canto 3, first chapter, is questions by Vidur. So the questions come, this is also a long chapter, about 50 verses, 45 verses. But in the beginning, it is described how Vidurji ended up going on this pilgrimage. So it starts with Vidurji trying to explain to his elder brother Dhritarashtra that he should abandon the demands of his foolish and demoniac son Duryodhan. So, and then Duryodhan comes to know, somewhere we will see here, very harsh words are spoken by Duryodhan. See, here is what Vidurji is telling to Dhritarashtra. You are maintaining offense personified, Duryodhan. He is offense personified as your infallible son, but he is envious of Lord Sri Krishna. And because you are thus maintaining a non-devotee of Krishna, you are devoid of all auspicious qualities. Relieve yourself of this ill fortune as soon as possible and do good for the whole family. So he's giving him good advice that, you should stop listening to his son. You should abandon him. He's not saying you should kill him, but completely throw him out, discard him, and just completely get rid of him. And it was very good advice, because he will bring, complete destruction of the family. So if you want to do good for the whole family, you should discard this son. And while thus speaking, Vidura, whose personal character was esteemed by respectable persons, he was insulted by Duryodhan, who was swollen with anger and whose lips were trembling. Duryodhan was in company of Karna, his younger brother, and his maternal uncle, Shakuni. These two people, and the third person who was assisting Duryodhan was who? There are mainly three people who were always with Duryodhan, who were supporting and encouraging his nefarious activities, they blocked out, they formed a shield around Duryodhan and blocked out all good advice coming to him. They were Shakuni, Karna, and one more, his brother Dushasan. So these three people completely, it's not like it's not Duryodhan's fault, or he's a very intelligent person. But plus these three people, so these four people were primarily the most evil in the whole Mahabharata episode. He says, who asked him to come here? This son of a kept mistress. So as we know, Vidurji was born from one of the maidservants by the power of Vyasdev. He is so crooked that he spies in the interest of the enemy, he's saying for the Pandavas' enemy, against those on whose support he has grown up, as if like they have supported him. They means Dhritarashtra and Duryodhan. Toss him out of the palace immediately and leave him with only his breath. Like, beat him up, but just leave him barely alive. And thus, being pierced by arrows through his ears and afflicted to the core of his heart, Vidur placed his bow on the door and quit his brother's place. He was not sorry, for he considered the acts of the external energy to be supreme. He said, okay, there must definitely be something good in this. And then he went to, we see here, by his piety, Vidur achieved the advantages of the pious Kauravas. After leaving Hastinapur, he took shelter of many places of pilgrimage, which are the Lord's lotus feet. With a desire to gain a higher order of pious life, he traveled to holy places where thousands of transcendental forms of the Lord are situated. So some names are also given here: Ayodhya, Dwarka, Mathura, etc. So many temples, all these things. And so basically he was having a great time. We are all like this. Of course, we are not in this royal family. I'm not in a royal family or anything, but we are all tied up. He was also tied up with his duties. He thought he had a duty. Not only he thought, he did have a duty he was a very, very responsible senior minister in the ministry of the whole kingdom of the Dhritarashtra, who was the king. And he was managing a lot of things. Dhritarashtra was blind. So Vidurji was the one who was basically carrying on, all the management aspects, administration aspects to a large extent, supported by many others. Of course, Bhishma Dev was there as the sort of the chairperson or overall grandsire. So, but with this insult that basically drove a dagger around his sense of false duty to Dhritarashtra. And he was already agonizing internally over the overall situation, but he could not give up his duty and go. Now that he was thrown out in such a insulting way, he took it as a sign of Lord Krishna to do what he really wanted to do, which is to focus all his time in hearing and speaking the transcendental messages. So many of devotees also feel like that. We are stuck because of material obligations. We have to, continue to work, to provide for the family and so on. And when will we get the chance to let go of all this? It's hard to let go of the sense of duty to family and all that on one's own strength. If something the Lord makes it happen externally, it becomes the impetus to take that action that one has been wanting to take from a long time. And that happened in the case of Vidurji. So coming back here to Canto 1, let us read the purport of text 1. Purport by His Divine Grace, Abhay Charnarvind Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vidura. So basically, Srila Prabhupada here in the purport is giving a history of Vidurji, especially his past life as Mundaka Muni. No, not Mundak Muni, as Yamaraj, who was cursed by Mundak Muni. So let us read. Vidura, one of the prominent figures in the history of Mahabharata. He was conceived by Vyasdev in the womb of the maidservant of Ambika, mother of Maharaj Pandu. So there were Ambika and Ambalika. So they were mother of Maharaj Pandu, who passed away, and Dhritarashtra. So they both could not produce perfect heirs, so to say. And then this maidservant had another son by the power of Vyasdev, and she had a perfect son in the name of Vidur. He is an incarnation of Yamraj, being cursed by Manduka Muni. He was to become a Shudra. The story is narrated as follows. Very nice story is there. Srila Prabhupada has given. Once upon a time, Kadachit, once upon a time, the state police caught some thieves who had concealed themselves in the hermitage of Manduka Muni. The police constables, as usual, arrested all the thieves and Manduka Muni along with them. The magistrate specifically punished the Muni to death by being pierced with a lance. Basically, जैसे हिंदी में बोलते हैं ना, शूली पे चढ़ा दिया, or shuli pe, like, being pierced, and then like almost like crucifying or something, even worse. When he was just to be pierced, the news reached the king, and he at once stopped the act on consideration of his being a great Muni. The king personally begged the Muni's pardon for the mistake of his men, and the saint at once went to Yamraj, who prescribes the destiny of the living beings. So he was very powerful Muni, as you can see, and he was not happy with what happened. So he went directly to ask Yamraj, why did this happen? Yamraj, being questioned by the Muni, replied that the Muni in his childhood pierced an ant with a sharpened straw, and for that reason he was put into difficulty. The Muni thought it unwise on the part of Yamraj that he was punished for his childhood or childish innocence, and thus the Muni cursed Yamraj to become a Shudra. So this Muni had so much power, Manduka Muni, that he was able to curse Yamraj to become a Shudra. And this Shudra incarnation of Yamraj was known as Vidura, the Shudra brother of Dhritarashtra and Maharaj Pandu, because they are all sons of Vyasdev. But this Shudra son of the Kuru dynasty was equally treated by Bhishma Dev. So this is showing the great character of Bhishma Dev. He did not make any difference between the fact that the other two were sons of the royal princess Ambika and Ambalika, but rather a maidservant. But he treated them all three equally, along with the other nephews. And in due course, Vidur was married with a girl who was also born in the womb of a Shudrani by a Brahman. Although Vidur did not inherit the property of his father, the brother of Bhishma Dev, still he was given sufficient state property by Dhritarashtra, the elder brother of Vidur. So earlier, if you see in Mahabharata, Dhritarashtra was a nice man. He always had this regret, or I would also say resentment in his heart, that he was born blind. Even though he was the elder brother among the three, so he should be the rightful heir to the throne. But because of his being blind, the laws of, the succession forbade him to become king, and his younger brother Pandu became king. And he was harboring great resentment and this sadness in his heart for this for this fate. Being born as blind cannot be attributed to anybody else who is living. It's not that somebody made him blind. He was born blind. So he was only blaming destiny or fate for it. And that became a constant reason of blame for anything that went wrong in his life, destiny. So he always resorted to destiny right from his childhood. Destiny is the cause of all my problems. It started right from his birth because he was born blind. So that is the situation of Dhritarashtra. And then according to the laws of succession, the current king's son would become king, which means Yudhishthir Maharaj. And Yudhishthir Maharaj was also born before Duryodhan, so he's older. But still, somehow or the other, he wanted to install his son, Duryodhan, as the king. And he got a chance, or his desire formed or saw a good turn when Pandu Maharaj died. Then he thought, oh, I have a real shot at it. He was appointed the king because there was no other successor. The children were very young, and Vidurji could not be appointed the king. And Bhishma Dev had taken a vow not to sit on the throne. So he became the king and he saw a real shot at it. And then he started siding with his son on all nefarious activities. So that was the mindset of Dhritarashtra. So anyway, but earlier he was very favorable to Pandu, even to his sons after the death of Pandu, treated them very nicely. But when he saw Duryodhan having the same desire that I want to become king instead of Yudhishthir, he started fanning that spark. So it says here, Vidura was very much attached to his elder brother. And all along he tried to guide him on the right path. During the fratricidal war of Kurukshetra, Vidur repeatedly implored his elder brother to do justice to the sons of Pandu. Like we just saw before the beginning of the war, how he was telling to Dhritarashtra to abandon his son. But Duryodhan did not like such interference by his uncle, and thus he practically insulted Vidura. This resulted in Vidura's leaving home for pilgrimage and taking instructions from Maitreya Rishi. So this is what happens in the beginning of the chapter. Okay. So once again, the verse is Viduras tirtha yatrayam maitreyad atmano gatim gyatva gad hastinapuram taya vapta vivitsitaha. Translation: Sri Suta Goswami said, while traveling on a pilgrimage, Vidura received knowledge of the destination of the self from the great sage Maitreya and then returned to Hastinapur. He became as well versed in the subject as he desired. Okay. So, on specifically this verse, there are a couple of points in the verse that I wanted to mention. So, first of all, just from this verse, not the background of how he was able to leave his sense of material duties and go to pilgrimage. So that's a very important point that is, I feel, very practical and very relevant for many devotees, that how to have that impetus or that inspiration to give up material duties beyond a certain point and actually full-time focus on our devotional life. So that's a very important point. that we must all try to think about. But specifically from this verse, Viduras Tirtha Yatrayam Maitreyad Atmano Gatim. So the purpose of going to Yatra. So Kartik month has just started, like I mentioned. Today is the first day of Kartik of this year. And many devotees are going to go to Tirth Yatra during the month of Kartik. I think His Holiness Shri Srimad Radhanath Maharaj is going to Jagannath Puri Yatra, Balnitai Prabhu. Is that correct, or Narottam Vilas Prabhu? I've heard.
I believe so, Prabhu.
Huh?
I think so, yes.
Yeah. Are you going, or what did you say you were going, or?
I'm not going.
Narottam Vilas Prabhu, are you going, or?
Mini Preeti is going.
Sorry?
The only person I know from here going for sure is Rukmini Preeti.
Okay, Rukmini Preeti Mataji. Yeah, so many devotees are going to be, I know few devotees are going to be visiting Vrindavan just like that. I mean, not any specific like a planned yatra, but their personal yatra. And the purpose of going for yatra is given very clearly here is to meet saintly people. And if we are going for a long enough time, then we should sit and hear from them and obtain knowledge of Lord Krishna. So not just meet him, it is written here in the second line, Maitreyad Atmano Gatim. So to get the knowledge of Atmana Gati, the destination of the soul, and the highest destination of the soul is to reach or to be able to take shelter of the feet of Lord Shri Krishna. That is the highest destination. So that's the Atmano Gati. So to learn the Atmano Gati, or the best destination of the Atma or the soul from these saintly people, that is the purpose of Yatra. And of course, as a secondary purpose, we can also, I'm saying it's a secondary purpose. This is the primary purpose. The secondary purpose is visiting the temples and taking darshan of the deities, etc., etc. And why I'm saying this is because Srila Prabhupada said this, and he was saying that to one of his disciples, that one time he went to Vrindavan Yatra along with all his hundreds of god brothers and his Guru Maharaj, which is Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj. And there was a very rare darshan that was available at that time in a specific temple. So 90% of the disciples went for the darshan. And at the same time, Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj was going to give a class. And Srila Prabhupada and few other disciples stayed back to hear the class, and they missed that very rare darshan of a particular deity in a particular temple. So by his practical example, Srila Prabhupada demonstrated that, and Srila Prabhupada was not residing in Vrindavan at that time. He was living in Bombay or somewhere over there with his Allahabad, or he was visiting something. He was in that area doing his pharmaceutical business. So this was like, obviously, when Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj was still present on the planet. He left his body in 1936. So Srila Prabhupada was very much a family man till that point, and didn't even start publishing his Back to Godhead or anything like that. And still at that point, he stayed back to listen to the class by Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj, and instead of running behind and going to the temples. So that is a very, very important purpose. And to go to a holy place is important for pilgrimage, is because that is the converging point of all the saintly people. So all the saintly people are to be found in the holy places. For example, if you want to meet a professor, the best place is to go to a university. Yes, you can meet a professor in the middle of a market street also, but it's unlikely. So if you want to meet a professor, go to university. If you want to meet a drunkard, go to a drinking place. Or if you want to meet a devotee, go to a holy place. That is the meaning. So the purpose of Tirth Yatra is very nicely brought out in this verse. And then the second point is that after obtaining that knowledge, what should we do? We should apply it in our life practically and help others apply it, those who are near and dear. Then come back. Gyatva Agat Hastinapuram. He came back to Hastinapur and he tried to instruct his brother with that knowledge. So that is the situation. Okay. So that is the understanding from this verse, that one should come back. One should not stay in the place of yatra for a very long time. Come back to your place and apply the knowledge and help your near and dear ones also to apply that knowledge. Okay. So these are some of the main key learnings I sort of noted down from this specific verse. Okay. Then I took some notes from various commentaries and various lectures that I heard on this verse. So this whole, so we are starting chapter 13 today of first canto. And this chapter 13 is a sort of a beginning of a new section in the first canto. So the previous section started with the birth of Parikshit Maharaj, was the sort of the ending of the Mahabharat war and the birth of Parikshit Maharaj. The whole thing is revolving around Parikshit Maharaj. Of course, there are many other important points, the questions by the sages and so on in the first canto. But later on, one of the things that the sages wanted to know is how did Parikshit Maharaj end up in a situation that he disappeared from the planet. So that whole story starts in 7th chapter and keeps going on till 12th chapter. So 7th chapter is when Ashwathama tries to kill Parikshit in the womb of his mother Uttara Devi. And Lord Shri Krishna saves him. And then we see the passing away of Bhishma Dev and the departure subsequently of Lord Shri Krishna to Dwarka and his arrival in Dwarka. And finally, the birth of Maharaj Parikshit. So that whole thing, sort of that episode is going on from the 7th chapter. So that culminated in 12th chapter. Now comes the story that builds up to the passing away of Parikshit Maharaj, or basically till the point of his getting cursed. That will be the next big section of Canto 1, starting from chapter 13, and it will go all the way to chapter 19. So, first thing is that Vidurji comes back home to Hastinapur primarily with a single-pointed objective, one objective. And that one objective is to finally help his brother. Help his brother, not materially. Materially, he has enjoyed a lot. Of course, he was blind, but still he had a life apart from that, full of enjoyment, so to say. And in that material enjoyment, and he committed a lot of sinful activities and also paid a dear price for it by losing all his 100 sons. So all that happened in the life of Dhritarashtra, but finally he wants to do one last act of welfare. which is for him to take to the spiritual path. So later on, we will see in this chapter how somehow first he was trying to give him advice properly. This time he says, okay, this guy is not going to listen with proper advice, like in a nice way. He just berates him. He even calls him like a dog. Literally, that word is used. And then Dhritarashtra gets it. In Hindi, there is a saying, "Laton ke bhoot baaton se nahi mante." That some people, need to be kicked in the rear end for them to understand. They cannot understand by sweet words. They have to be basically kicked hard for them to wake up. So that was the situation with Dhritarashtra. And that's so Dhritarashtra departs. And we'll also see another key point here, that Vidurji does not convey that Lord Krishna has also disappeared from this planet. That is saved for the next chapter, 14th chapter, when Pandavas, Yudhishthir Maharaj and all, learn of the passing away, or not passing away, but disappearance, return of Lord Sri Krishna to Vaikuntha. And on hearing that news, they become very sad and they decide to retire. So they go to the Himalayas and they go back to the spiritual world from there. So the Pandavas retire in chapter 15 after coronating Parikshit Maharaj. So that is sort of the one section. 13th, 14th, and 15th is a section which describes how the Pandavas, and it is important for Dhritarashtra to leave the scene, because if Pandavas retire, because Lord Krishna has gone back to Vaikuntha, Pandavas have absolutely no reason to stay. Their whole existence on this planet is to serve Lord Krishna. When Lord Krishna is not there, they have no desire to stay or live anymore. So they have to retire. But if Dhritarashtra was still alive and in the palace, there is a possibility he could become king again. Just like when Pandu died, he was nominated king. Now the sons of Pandu, if they leave, maybe he is to become king. So the turn of events as arranged by the Lord is for Dhritarashtra to disappear from the scene. And then for Pandavas to leave the palace in chapter 15, ultimately leading to the coronation of Parikshit Maharaj. And then chapter 16 onwards describes how he lands up it describes a little bit about how he was ruling the kingdom and how he chastised Kali and preserved dharma on this planet. But finally, he commits that mistake with Shamik Rishi and ends up getting cursed. All that is described till in chapter 18, and then chapter 19 is the appearance of Sri Shukdev Goswami. So the most blessed event of the appearance of Shukdev Goswami occurs in chapter 19, and then Srimad Bhagavatam starts. The discussion between Parikshit Maharaj and Shukdev Goswami starts at the end of chapter 19, where Parikshit Maharaj asks, what are the duties of a person who is about to die? So that narration of Srimad Bhagavatam from the lotus mouth of Shukdev Goswami starts from second canto. Starts with Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So that is how this whole sections connect. And chapter 13 is a nice starting point of that whole sort of the downward hill, the downward spiral of events. That is one point. And another point that has been described by acharyas is this Atmano Gatim. That Atmano Gatim, that is the most important knowledge for anybody to gain. That what is the highest or topmost or best destination of a person or the soul. And it is described here that the knowledge, and when we get to Canto 3, we will see that the knowledge that Vidurji got from Maitreya Rishi was all about Lord Shri Krishna. And Lord Shri Krishna is the originator of the Vedas and the whole material and spiritual world. Janmadyasya yatonvayaditaratas chartheshvabhigya swarat. So everything is coming from Lord Shri Krishna. He is the maintainer, creator, maintainer, and destroyer. Janma Adi, which means creation, maintenance, and destruction. So when we take shelter of the feet, lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna and get knowledge about Lord Krishna, then all knowledge is obtained, because knowledge itself is taking the shelter of Lord Shri Krishna. So when we take shelter of Lord Shri Krishna, we get all the knowledge that is possible to be known. So that's how Srila Prabhupada has translated this, Vividsitaha, being well versed in everything knowable. So everything that is to be known, he became well versed because he got the knowledge of Shri Krishna. Okay. And finally, the point I would like to make is that this shows also, or this brings out the point, like I was mentioning, that it is not only important to gain the knowledge, but to share it with others, or to not share it like on a platform. That's not the point I'm making, that one should now become a platform speaker and become a great orator, but speak it to others to change people's lives. And that is exactly what Vidurji did. It could be just one person or two persons, doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be 200 or 20,000. So yes, there are empowered devotees like Srila Prabhupada who changed the lives of millions of people and is still continuing to change, even when he has physically disappeared, through his books and his writings and his speech, all those. But whatever knowledge we are getting, we are supposed to use it to impact our lives and the lives of those who are near and dear and close to us. And Vidurji was, even though his brother insulted him, see, his brother did not directly insult him. He was insulted by Duryodhan, but Dhritarashtra did not stop him from that. So that is the unfortunate part. He kept watching, and that makes him 100% complicit in the act. It gives approval to the act. He approved basically what Duryodhan was doing, and in that way he became a partner in the crime. Even then, Vidurji is so kind that he came back all the way from his pilgrimage to do some act of welfare for his brother. The act may be a little bit harsh, just like a doctor. Sometimes a doctor gives a medicine, just that you eat the medicine and then, no other restrictions and you'll be well. And sometimes the doctor has to cut open and do a surgery, and it's very painful. But ultimately, both are, whether it's just eating a sweet pill or cutting open the body and doing a surgery, both are for the patient's benefit. So now Vidurji decided to cut open Dhritarashtra for his benefit. But ultimately, it was only his benefit that was in the mind of Vidurji. So the means may have been harsh, but the intent was as pure as it was before. So he came to speak these words, or to help his brother from all that knowledge that he had gained. So one of the things that we should do is to help others from this knowledge. Those who are receptive, now I'm not saying we should go and dump or show off our knowledge in the name of helping. That should never be done. But sincerely and from the heart very genuinely try to help others. And that does not mean that one give lecture. It could just mean that one uses that knowledge to help others in their situation to make spiritual progress. In this case, we will see later in the chapter, he basically asked him to get out of the house without any belongings. That message really resonated with Dhritarashtra, and in the middle of the night, he and Gandhari, his wife, leave the palace. No time to pack, no time to arrange a big rath and fill it with all ingredients of daily use, clothes, food, servants, nothing. Just they both left in the middle of the night. And Vidurji also left. He didn't stay back. Okay, I have packed off the evil Dhritarashtra, and now I can, stay and actually enjoy with Yudhishthir and all those. Even he left. In the morning, we will see when Yudhishthir Maharaj wakes up, he finds both of his uncles gone, both of them. And he was so distressed that Narad Muni comes to console him and say, don't worry, they have both gone to the right destinations. So the purpose of visit of Vidurji was not to enjoy royal comforts or royal treatment from the emperor of the whole world, Yudhishthir Maharaj. He's the favorite uncle of the emperor of the world. He could have enjoyed long time of enjoyment, and Yudhishthir Maharaj would have taken absolute fantastic care of him. But that was not the intention of Vidurji. His only intention was to help his brother, and then he left upon accomplishing that. So saintly people, like it is said in first canto, only 5th chapter, beginning, saintly people come and stay, or 4th chapter actually, when Shaunak rishis are glorifying Suta Goswami, that saintly people come and stay at a place only for that much time as it takes to milk a cow. So basically they stay for very little time, and in that time their intention is only to give, not to take. So Vidurji was such a saintly person who came only and only to benefit Dhritarashtra. And even though he had the opportunity to enjoy great comforts because he was a dear uncle of the emperor of the world, he did not care for that. And after accomplishing his goal, he left. So using our knowledge to help others in a positive way is very, very important. So first we must apply it on ourselves. Vidurji was already a self-realized soul. And then he helped his brother to become self-realized as well. So that is the understanding. So it's past 9 o'clock. I will stop here. Thank you for listening to me. Please forgive any mistakes. And if there are any comments or questions, I'm happy to discuss.
Thank you, Prabhu, for a nice lecture and discussing the history of Vidur and the context of this chapter amongst the flow of the Bhagavatam and the messages of Yatra Atmakatim and being chaste in one's speaking that which one has heard. Very nice. Thank you very much. Glorious chapter.
One of my favorite chapters, this one.
Yes. Would anybody like to share reflections, questions, comments?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, it was very beautiful. Like in the morning, I was hoping it's going to keep continue. It was very beautiful. You did it very beautifully. There's no words to describe it. Thank you, Prabhuji. It's very enlightening. Thank you.
My dry words went through the filter of your sweet mind, and they became beautiful. Okay. So,
Thank you, Prabhuji,
Description again, Prabhu.
very much. I like the
pilgrimage or yatra, and also you described many wonderful points from the lectures in the contribution. Thank you so much. Very enlightening. Looking forward to this chapter. Thank you.
thank you, Prabhuji. Balnitai Prabhu, I think you were saying something.
Thank you, Prabhu. I liked your connections, how you brought it to the third canto and brought us all around and described many wonderful things. One thing I noticed in one of the verses that you brought up, that you showed on the screen, where the places of pilgrimage were likened to the lotus feet of the Lord. And in the purport to the verse where the 9 processes of devotional service are described by Prahlad Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada breaks each one down. One of the things he talks about for Padasevanam is going to places of pilgrimage. I thought that was very nice connection between verses of the Bhagavatam in which the Prabhupada was sharing in that purport. But overall, everything I appreciate. Thank you, Prabhu. As always, I appreciate it. Hare Krishna. Dhanavats to you and the assembled Vaishnavas. Hari Hari.
All right. Thank you very much for this wonderful beginning to Sunday morning and to the Kartik month. And I hope we will have a Damodar Ashtakam today in the temple, I think.
It's the plan.
Huh?
That would be the plan.
Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to that. And a blissful month.
So we can all gather today at 11:30, hear lecture and Arati Kirtan, and then chant Damadastakam and offer gifts to our Damodar. Please join us. I think we can end at this point.
Yeah.
Thank you. Take care. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.